episode 200, and we are going to discuss the most dingers thing we could think of.
Fantasy baseball. It's time for dingers.
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats. What's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement. Check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see. What's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head. Please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers. Ain't no minor league. This is major. Yeah, Dingers. Let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just Vlad Guerrero Jr. that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. As always, Tyler Childs joined again this evening by Robbie Baseball from the Murder Room. What's happening, Robbie?
Nothing. I'm here. I'm excited. Baseball season's on, and we have fun things to talk about. And hey, episode 200.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying before, like moments before we came on, Vladdy hit his third home run of the evening and he has a double on the night, and he got stepped on by Aaron Hicks, they looked pretty brutal. It got cleated right on his right hand. So the guy is mashing with 1.5 hands. It's pretty impressive. So
I'm surprised that didn't hurt Aaron Hicks.
Yeah. Well, he's basically a small horse, 1.5 hands. Right. I went there. That's a like niche joke.
And that's early for you. That's usually a few bourbons in before you start slicing those.
Well, I think that's almost a more intellectual joke than we normally have here.
It needs a cartoon.
Yes.
To go with it.
Robbie, what are you thinking for tonight here? Are you excited about where you're at so far in the season? I know it's early. Are you disappointed in a lot of leagues? How you feeling? Like, it's still early. We don't, like in most formats, we're not even through a week yet, right?
Right. Yeah. We were just discussing that tonight is the first night that I think it's official. Every team has went through their rotation now, with a few teams now having their opening day starters going the second time. I don't want to use the ace term because we've had a ridiculous number of poor starts, and we're going to talk about it because that's important, especially for fantasy owners. But after doing the work of finding out just how bad pitching has been and where we're sitting with league averages, which we'll continue to discuss as we move further into the season and things stabilize better, I feel okay. Not great. We still have 4 days left, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in all the weekly head-to-heads, because you should have had a long first week. So I'm not out of it as far as I know in any one head-to-head matchup. But I'm not pumped with, smooth transitions. And a lot of guys who were, it seemed, hitting well in spring have either just like lost all that playing time or they haven't made it click. And that's when I started to kind of go back the last couple of days and be like, well, what are pitching matchups going to be for some of these guys that I've got concerns with? And that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. So overall, I'm confused. But I am kicking ass in the 130 team points league that I am poised to do damage in. So in that one, I'm happy. And then in the rest of them, I have playoff aspirations, but that's the one league outside of the home league where I just expect pure dominance.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's still early. So most of my teams, as you know, Robbie, you're in enough leagues with me. I almost always draft the slow starters. That's just kind of my thing. I pick these guys that have really rough early years, and my season completely depends on when they start kicking ass. And that's really where we're not at this season, which is awesome. I went 4-0 in our real money league.
Oh, did you? Oh, good for you. I went 0-4.
And I don't know if you saw this today, Robbie, and it might be the only time I'm there all season, but I went to number 1 in the surf league. Number 5 overall in Earth today.
Are you really? Holy crap.
I was there. That. Like, I mean, that might be the pinnacle of my season, which,
it's
early.
It
is.
It is
but
early.
I got to the summit, so that's what matters.
Hey, right now you're a top 5. Good for you. I'll check after. I'm curious. I know in TGFBI I was top whatever, not top 20, but I was somewhere inside the top 50 really early, and I laughed. I'm like, one good start, right, when other people haven't even taken the mound. And it wasn't until Sandoval went up last night with the Angels that I was like, okay, now like I'm waiting on Josiah Gray, who we're going to touch on tonight. And then I think my season's kind of rolling because those are the guys who I have multiple rosters, and I'm counting on for, not greatness, but I'm counting on for overachieving, like better draft value, better than the trade value I had for them, all those things. Yeah. But anyway, I am thirsty. And I mean, we've only done this 199 times, so let's do it for 200.
A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle.
Oh, that felt really good.
Yeah, that was a clean one. There we go.
So, episode 200,
Yeah.
fresh bottle.
Ooh, Woodford.
How about a
Reserve.
Woodford?
Yeah, how about a Woodford? Oh, I forgot to bring my spoon, but I am doing a Crown Float. Just gonna have to do
Shocking.
a really.
We're all shocked. Everyone is
I
shocked.
haven't done it in a bit. I did a few bushes. But tonight my cider, Ty, because the stout is Guinness. That's what it is. My cider is Growers cider. And I mean, you're either a shower or a grower. And if that's not their t-shirt slogan, I don't know what is. Grower Cider Co. This is a Honeycrisp apple hard cider, 5%er. Smells like a Honeycrisp apple. You know how those are the like high sugar content, super sweet apples? They're also typically gigantic. They're like an 80 count apple. So in a box, a standard box of fruit or vegetable, everything's by count. So in the winter, everything gets smaller in count that comes to Canada because they ship the smaller stuff to us. So it's like 16 counts of cauliflower in a box. And when in a peak in Ontario in the summer is an 8 count. Anyway, Honeycrisp apples are always the most expensive. They're also typically the largest ones. So I'm expecting this to be extra delish for 200. But anyway, cheers, Ty. 200 episodes.
That's right, man. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That was the most tangent "what are you drinking" speech ever. But
Yeah.
Here we are. But 200,
Well,
we have talked a lot over 200 episodes, so why not? It's an ode to 200. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and we thank everyone for listening.
Yeah, and if this is your first time, we are idiots, but we get things right every now and then. So welcome. Let's dive in today, Robbie. We're going to talk about panic. Right, this time of year, we talked about
At the
before.
disco.
I mean, you can
Panic at the
at a
Diamond.
disco.
Oh, we should have called it Panic at the Diamond.
I have enjoyed Yancey's tweets over the last week or so, where it's like, if I was a coach or if I was a pitcher,
Right. Yeah,
I've
I would
enjoyed
score
those.
more runs than the other team.
If I was panicking, I would do it at a disco, right? So I have enjoyed the context there. But this week we're talking about what happens this time of year, which is who would you draft differently, why would you draft differently, and what should you do if you screwed up? That's where we're at. We're at that part of the year where you can make some very critical waiver ad drops. So let's get into it, Robbie. Our first guy's a bit of a hometown favorite. He actually was on the bump this evening. So I'll let you lead in because you did the digging on this one. So I'll let you get into it first.
Yeah. Very first thing, if you have any questions fantasy related, we are here for you. We do mailbag episodes. We call them the Melee bag episodes, thanks to Luke Melee. And if you don't know who that is, that's the kind of deep dive we will do here. The players who may have 10 days of usefulness out of the 180 in a season, we're going to talk about them when they're having the 10 days. But anyway, find us at Dingers Pod on Twitter. Find Ty, at Tourney Boss, or myself at Robbie Baseball 1, and that is the number 1. You can also hit up RobbieBaseball.com if you want fun, exciting articles and things. And I do summaries of what we discussed on previous podcasts and things like that. But of course, the best way to do that, do the big dingers thing, is to just listen to us. And don't forget, we love 5-star rate and reviews. Now that the ad with no sponsorship is over, Ty, Jose Barrios is the hometown hero that I'm going to talk about. Now, I've listened and taken in a lot of Jose Barrios interviews over the offseason and things that have come up. It was short for us because a lot of the guys weren't talking. He said last year after he came here, he felt here being Toronto, he fell in love with Toronto and was really excited at the opportunity to re-sign as soon as the season was wrapping up and players were doing like exit interviews, which is something the Jays do, kind of like let the player know what might be ahead in the offseason and beyond. Ross Atkins, the GM, said that they wanted to talk extension very soon. So it was something that the Jays did get done over the offseason. And Barrios had all this build up and everything, and then came out opening night and sucked. Blew up against Texas, 2/3 of an inning. Did not take the loss, thanks to an amazing Blue Jays offense, which, you know, Ty's already touched on it tonight, how dominant it is. But I feel like Barrios, Ty, might be the best dynasty buy low in 3 weeks, possibly 4 weeks. And this is why.
Can I touch on one thing really quickly before you go through this?
Yeah.
I just want to touch on the 2 starts so far, which, you know, if you didn't watch them, and these are things that every hometown fan has a little bit of an edge on their own players, right? So this is our guys. And the one thing, if you watch both of his starts so far, and although the first one was extremely short, he got squeezed, and he got squeezed again tonight. And so he's on the end of bad luck that you can't see in the box score. So these are the little things that if you pay attention closely, you know he's going to bounce back. Now, Robbie's about to, you know, really give you some other details that are make it obvious why this is the thing. But there's also this precursor of a little bit of bad luck here for Barrios, in my opinion. So I just wanted to add that to what you're going to say, Robbie.
Yeah, the start tonight, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. He also gave up 2 bombs.
All in the 5th, just to finish.
Right, yeah. The start itself appeared good, but you could tell, you know, like one of those if only he didn't come out things. But anyway, his upcoming starts are Boston, Houston, back to the Yankees, next 5 starts. That is crappy. That is really rough. And his first 7 starts, you're tacking on 1 more Yankee start because that was what he did tonight, and that Texas start at home. So if you were going to say he's got 1 easy start, it would have been the home opener of those, because the Yankees are going to be on base machine. They're just going to make it really hard for pitchers to get into and definitely out of the 6th inning, which means quality starts are going to be hard to come by. I have a terrible fear that Barrios's line and win and everything, once we get into like the 2nd week of May, I think it's going to look ugly. You know, we could be looking at 2-6, you know, 3-4, whatever, because there will be somewhere, I guess he doesn't score. So maybe it'll be like, I don't know, 1-5. Like, I don't know. It's going to be bad. And people are going to,
he also could be 0-0 like he is right now.
Right. Yeah. Good point. So, and that's one of those things where people are going to be like, what am I getting from him? And in Dynasty, I think that's the best thing. It's not 1 or 2 starts. I think he's got such a hard schedule in front of him that it's going to be hard for his line to look good. And that 2nd start tonight, it just tacked on even more difficulty for him. Right now, he's only got 5 2/3 innings in 2 starts, and it's going to be really, really rough for him. So what I'm saying is Jose Barrios is a very good pitcher, and in Dynasty, he is going to be very good, but he's going to be very good at the end of September. You need to you need to aim to pick him up in May before that turnaround starts, before he's through those last 4 tough 5 starts. Boston is going to be rough next week. And then Houston, New York. It's rough, but I would start to look at whoever it is that has Barrios, look at what maybe you think their team could do in your league, and get ready to knock on the door. Because even if his start against Boston is good next week, there's going to be a Houston. I think between 2 of those 3 starts, we are still going to be looking at an ugly stat line for Barrios. And when you get ready back to go back to New York, maybe that's when you knock on the door of whoever has him and say, hey, are you at all interested in Barrios? I know it's been a bad start or whatever, and get that dialogue going. Like, that's how you win later this year, is picking up Barrios now when the line is really in doubt. And then look at the future. That's why I'm saying you don't need to rush out. I certainly wouldn't cut him, but you know what, Ty? I'd probably sit him if I had him in a redraft against Boston next week.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. I don't necessarily agree with that, because even a bad day for Barrios isn't necessarily the worst day. Career ERA against Boston is 4.43. Yankees, he's sitting at 4.73, right? So a little bit, rough shake here. 5-4-6 against Houston as well. So he's getting beat up by the good teams, right? That's the reality here. I think that's something to note, right? If you're a Barrios owner, like you shouldn't be starting him against these elite teams. That's just what it is. So, overall, he's gonna give you innings. Like that's what you're getting with Barrios. And in Dynasty, in big deep leagues, that is the most valuable component that you can come up with. So I do agree with what you're saying across the board here, Robbie. Next guy on our list, Kershaw. Controversial start today here. 7 innings of perfect baseball, and he got yanked after 80 pitches. I personally think is the right move. We've seen this before. We've seen many guys come out in their first start of the season and get pushed into too many pitches because of that perfection opportunity or no hitter. And it almost always has a 3, 4, 5 start effect. With Kershaw having some injury history, I think it's absolutely the right move. The Dodgers do not care about today. They're playing for the playoffs. And in Kershaw, in his heart of hearts, feels the same way. Nobody wants to come out of a perfect game. No one. There's nobody anywhere that's like, yep, get me out of here. But he's also a vet. He's been around the block, and I don't think he's here for that at this point, as much as he'd like to have one. Although I believe he does have one, does he not?
Have what? Sorry.
A perfect game. I
don't think he has a perfect game. He might have a no-hitter, but I honestly don't know. I just saw people. You drew to my attention an Alex Fast tweet where he did a poll of, should he be out or not? And then, SP Streamer said, anybody who thinks he should have been pulled, you can block me now. And I joked to you, I'm way ahead of you on that one. But it's just, that's the silliness of it. Like you have to put your fandom aside. This is a pitcher with an injury history, as you said. This is a guy who's on a World Series contending team. He's not on Minnesota. If Kershaw's in Minnesota, yeah, you put him back out for the 8th because that could be the highlight of the Minnesota season or the Baltimore season, or name your team that may possibly make the playoffs or is not at all considering it. And those are the pitchers you push, but not Kershaw. Not when you're paying him $30 million a year, $1 million a start. And you're like, yeah, you know what? Let's go push it here. This was his first start, right? In 2 weeks, he goes back out. In a month, he absolutely goes back out. It's just too early. It's not worth it to do it. But all the people that are think it's wrong, I think those are the people that don't understand. And all the people that were like, oh, I just wish he would have. I'm with you. I wish he would have too, but it's just not smart.
They're the armchair quarterbacks that don't have the decision-making ability to A, win a championship in their fantasy league, and B, manage a Major League Baseball team, right? Like that's the difference, right?
Might be some great Kershaw trades coming up in the next 4 or 5 days here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
People are going to say he's back, and I'm really willing to pay for it.
Well, I had a dinner with my family this evening, like my brother and my mom, and I was telling my brother about the surf league and how far back I got Kershaw. And just we were talking about like how much of a bargain that was going to be. I couldn't believe I got him as late as I did. I don't even remember what round it is off the top of my head, but it was.
I just remember you talking about not knowing why he was still there. And I think I was like, well, I was thinking about taking my first pitcher in the 200s, but I thought I'd go to 250.
It was late though. Like for a first ballot Hall of Famer, I'll take that risk all day, every day. And I'm happy to do it. But next on the list here, Robbie, this is more of a you stat. Because you love these deep dives. I just draft guys like Kershaw. You go ahead and walk into this one.
Yeah. So to end of play tonight, April 13th, we have had 174 starts. So pitchers who have started a game. 42 of those, Ty, have been what you would determine to be a blow up or a bad start. So an ERA over 5.4, less than 5 innings, less than 5 Ks, all of that stuff. 24% of pitchers who have taken the mound so far this year have not helped your fantasy team. That is incredible. I don't know what the percentages were in years past. I'm obviously going to be keeping track of this as well as keeping track of this moving forward. But anyone who's out there who is like, I am falling behind in this, that, or the other, the only way you can be falling behind and in trouble is if you don't have starting pitchers on your team. If you have starting pitchers and they haven't done well, it's okay. Don't hit the panic button. We just did, the deep dive on Barrios's next 5-6 starts here. to tell you that it might not be a great turnaround for him. We've got a few more guys further down we're going to touch on, but don't think your season's over, because in all of your leagues, odds are really good that 24% of your league's starters have blown up. And that includes Corbin Burns, who's had a bad start and now today had a fine start. But you also have several guys who you're counting on for championships and for midseason and beyond and whatever. They'll get there. It's just been bad out the gate, and weather and other factors are there. So this is the don't panic. This is the reason why you shouldn't panic, right?
Yeah.
1 out of 4 starters has been bad. That's going to affect everybody. If it's hurting you extra hard right now, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
Well, but your
stay
reaction
strong.
should be, who can I buy? Right? Like, this is the time to go try to swindle somebody. Get in there, make a deal. That's just what you do. That's how you win.
And some teams that definitely need to make a deal, Ty, are ones who drafted Pedro Severino of Milwaukee.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he just moved himself into contention to get picked up on my rosters.
Yeah, he did. So Severino, for anyone who doesn't know, right before the season started, and this was like under the radar, because I didn't even realize this. I have him starting, or I had him starting for me in my TGFBI. And just for anyone who doesn't know, that's the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. They do have a podcast. Justin Mason runs this league, and I had Severino as one of my like awesome backup catchers to get that nobody cares about, because he's going to be the backup in Milwaukee, and he was like a backup starter for Baltimore for a couple years. He's solid. He was with Washington before that and didn't get a shot. Anyway, he's suspended for 80 games. Whatever it was, caught in his system is something they were testing for, and we'll see him later this summer. I don't know what that's going to do for his position within Milwaukee, but if you had him, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 other problems, and it's mostly pitching, so I can't help you none. Anyway, I will find a few catchers that maybe we can talk about. Eric Haas is not an option yet, Ty, just not getting time with Detroit, but it looks like Robbie Grossman might be taking some time on the bench. So perhaps Eric Haas on your waiver wires. That's going to be smaller leagues, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options there. The guy next on our list here is Max Fried. This is a guy that I think fell down a lot of people's lists last season, and he had a sneaky reliable year last year. Like, it wasn't brutal, but a lot of people kind of faded on him, and I think a lot of people have continued that fade into this season, and I think are going to be disappointed by not being in. It looks as if in the early parts of his career, he's a slow starter. Like, there's no real proof to that because he's had some late start seasons, but it does appear that way. Like, he pitched today, reasonable start, gave up 3 runs, only 2 earned, 4 strikeouts, 7 hits. So not a brutal outing in 5 1/3, which at this point in the year is a fairly deep start. So,
and his other start, Ty, was 5 2/3 as well.
Yep.
So that's the one thing he is doing, is getting the innings in. It's just not looking pretty right now.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, he did bring the ERA down 2 points from 7.94 to 5.73 today. So, he is trending in the right direction.
He didn't bring his ERA down as much as Barrios did.
Also true. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That's one of the things. That's why he's on the list, right? He's supposed to be an ace for some teams who wanted to kind of punt the ace, pick up an SP2 that they think is SP1 value. But the thing with Fried is that you're gonna need him to be getting the wins with Atlanta. That's the big value for him, right?
And the big thing too, 5.29 career ERA in April, March. So clearly a slow out of the gate starter. 2.2 in August with a perfect 13-0 career track record, and a 7-3 in September with a 2.8 ERA. So guy you want to have come playoff time, like that. Asterisks. Own him in every format. Like, this is the guys that win you championship, right? You can sneak into the playoffs. Boom. Max Fried goes Clayton Kershaw mode and you win championships. So that's how you do those turnarounds. Now, on the other side of the hill tonight, Robbie, Josiah Gray, which I think is hilarious. When he was coming up with the Dodgers, all kinds of press. This guy's going to be great. He's going to be so good. He gets straight into the National and everybody's like, he's going to be okay. Like, it's just so ridiculous. I mean, this guy's a bulldog. I love Josiah Gray. I sadly own him nowhere. But love the stuff. This guy can play. 2 good starts so far, Robbie. And he took it to the defending champions.
He's already started. I thought tonight was his debut.
No, he's 1-1. He didn't have the best outing. He had a classic young guy start in the opener for him. But he 5 strikeouts across 5 innings, only 1 hit and 3 walks today against the Braves. So I'm pretty good about that. And I'm happy to be in on Gray anywhere I can be. I just know I'm not going to get in there. So I'm going to hope and pray that he has a couple bad starts in a row and I can throw some terrible trade at some poor soul. And they're like, you know what? That's a deal I feel like taking today.
Well, you know who has him in the home league, Ty? This guy.
Well, yeah, I don't need pitching in that league.
Which
Plus,
is
I
why
could take your only good pitcher away from you.
which is why I immediately went and checked. I'm like, did I already miss him? And now I'm wondering, did I start him? I must have started him. But anyway, yeah. And the one thing I did want to mention on Gray here is we're going to take a little look into the future here. People who are wondering about, slow starts or where the K is going to come from and things like that. Washington is in a more northern part of Merca, and the weather isn't necessarily going to be the greatest. And, you got to let things warm up and stuff like that. I was able to wear shorts for the first time today, Ty. So, that was nice today. But anyway, Josiah Gray is going to have Arizona come to him, then San Francisco come to him, then Miami come to him. Then he's going to Colorado the very end of April into early May. And it depends on exactly how they do the starts, whether he's going to be pitching against the Angels or he's going to be home to the Mets. But excuse me, that's how his next 5 starts line up. So he's already had 2. By the time he's done 7, the line might look a little wonky because San Francisco is tough. Arizona does have good hitters. I mean, we're going to touch on a couple later on, but Cooper Hummel, who I guess we're going to have to just keep on stating over and over again. He was a 2nd-round pick of mine in that league that I referenced earlier, the 30-team points league that I'm looking to win the championship in.
4 walks today. 4.
Just great, right? Like that is that. And we're about to talk about another walk machine, but those are the guys who, when they're doing it early, you can probably think future goodness on. But anyway, Arizona, San Francisco, Miami, then at Colorado, that's going to be the tough one, right? That's the one you sit him for. And then if he's, home to the Mets or to the Angels or at the Angels, we'll have to see how he's doing by then. But either way, Josiah Gray is not going to have a sparkling stat line at the end of that next 5. So his first 7 starts, it's not going to look great. I think that's when you can pounce on him, very much like Brios. So he's on the list, put him up. We're going to be checking in on him in early to mid-May. And we want to hear from anybody out there, at Dingers Pod, if you have been able to strike yourself some Josiah Gray, if you're coloring your roster with Gray. The next one up, Ty, this is hype machine number 1, right? This is your Mercedes of 2022. We can stamp that, right? Stephen Kwan, Cleveland Guardians outfielder. So things we need to know. Cleveland Brass cleared the outfield deck for him prior to the season starting by trading Bradley Zimmer to Toronto. He's a league leader in walks right now and right up there. I don't know exactly how it is. He was 0 for 4 today, but he still had a walk. Prior to that, 9 for 13 at the dish, no power. That was something that people were talking about a little bit in the offseason, but everyone saw that, he had double digits last year. That means 20 for some reason. Everything can magically go up when you need it to. But I'm curious, Ty, what do you think a Stephen Kwan stat line could be at the end of this year? And I'll give it to you as simplest terms for everybody out there. I'll say, if I say 60-60, that's runs and RBIs. So do you think he is in a 60-60 type season right now, a 70-70, or are we getting a little crazy with the 80-80 on just runs and RBIs? And then I'll do the other stats.
I mean, I'm close to saying he's a lock for 80-80.
Okay. All right.
Because, I think the reality here is that Cleveland offense, you've got some guys that underperform like Andres Jimenez. You've got some of your breakout guys that you've talked about potentially. Bobby Bradley. Owen Miller is a guy that you've talked about a lot in the past.
He's mentioned. We're going to talk about him down lower. Yep.
He's been lights out so far. You have Josh Naylor, who could be a guy when he's back here in a week or so. Oscar Mercado has more home runs this season than he does in his entire career. Yeah. So they're performing well. I think Mercado's going to fall off, so don't get excited there. But I think there's some reality of this Cleveland team coming out. We could see Nolan Jones finally get his footing. We've been waiting for that. We are going to see Arias this year. Like that's a fact. We're going to see him at some point.
Yeah. That's
He's in
Gabriel
AAA.
Arias for anyone who's forgotten, because Cleveland has so many shortstops.
Yeah. And that rotation, just frankly, is just good enough, right? Like it's good enough to keep them in games. In that offense, I don't have it in front of me, but I got to imagine they're in the top 5 for runs scored so far.
Oh, they've got to be. They had like a 17-run game last week. I'm sure.
They're probably
yeah.
if they're not one. I was just being conservative with top 5. I wanted to say top 2, but I stuck with 5 just to be safe. So the reality is, like, I think that offense is going to be good enough, and he's going to be a contact guy, right? I'm not going to put him in double digit home runs.
That's my next question for you.
Yeah.
Is he a 10 stolen base, 10 homer guy? Is he a 10 home run, 15 stolen base guy? Where do you think that could line up for him? The history is really brief, but I honestly feel like the power is just not going to be beyond 13. Like, I think that would be good, because Stephen Kwan is not going to be a 5 category killer. I think he is going to be a plus average guy, which in today's Major League Baseball means a 300 hitter. That's plus. And I think that's his major asset.
Yeah, I just think he's going to get overmatched on the ability to get the barrel out. But I think he's going to know that, and I think he's just going to ramp it down and get on base, right? His job is to get on base so Jose Ramirez can see fastballs. That's his job.
Yeah, it's OBP machine, and I feel like that's the big thing. So anyway, so you believe then, Ty, you're saying 80-80 for him. So you're thinking real deal with Stephen Kwan here. I mean, it's too late. It's too late for everybody to go get him. We talked about it before, where people were taking some of these guys, Cody Morris, organizational mate, not a teammate of Stephen Kwan, but somebody within the organization of Cleveland, who was also getting taken really early in prospect drafts, because the year before they kind of like came out of nowhere. I feel like, and I had the opportunity to do this in my NFBC leagues, and I didn't do it. And I was kind of ready to click in some of my prospect drafts. And again, I didn't do it. I went with other guys, but Stephen Kwan was like the 4th or 5th potential guy. And a lot of that has to do with something we've talked about on this podcast over the previous year. And that's how crappy Cleveland manages outfielders. And we will have to see how the season goes on, because we know what happened with Yermin Mercedes last year. This is way too early to be in that same conversation, but everybody was so excited about Yermin Mercedes and his contact and, you know, like everything he was doing, and it fell off a cliff. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen here, but I just want to caution everybody to not go getting crazy in any of your leagues unless it's a redraft and you're somehow deep. Just caution.
I think the reality is, if somebody offers you a 3-tool guy, you take that deal all day, every day. Like, I think that's just the reality. Like, if you're going to get, I don't know, let's say like a Yelich, right? If somebody's going to offer you something like that, I think you take that deal, because you're going to end up with the home runs that'll help you. Yelich is going to be close to 80-80 by default, as long as he's healthy. And I think that's a fairly safe bet. But like, guys in that category are going to be offered for Stephen Kwan, right? That's the reality.
I've got a question for you then, Ty.
Let's see it.
So I had said, because Ray Butler put it out on Twitter, he's like, sell Stephen Kwan now. And I said, no, like, you know, he's got more to give than, like, this wasn't flash in the pan, like, you know, no one we'd ever heard of before. There was a lot of chatter about Stephen Kwan being able to be an everyday major leaguer. I said I would trade Stephen Kwan for a 5-tool guy. A 5-category guy. I wouldn't say a 3, because I think he's going to be 3. If he's going 80-80 with a 300 average, that's 3 hard to beat. But I said Jazz Chisholm. If that trade came across, I would take that immediately. Where are you on that? You would do the same?
I would, yeah, especially in Dynasty D formats. Like, I mean, in Ray plays a lot of like redraft more than Dynasty, like we do, right? So, you know, as far as I'm aware, I'm sure he's in some keepers here and there, but like,
he's
the reality
is that guy. It's just that, you know, I think it's like found money, right? That's what he was kind of saying, right? You've struck gold, because now you've got a lot of value with him today. Cash in on that with someone else. And I don't, the reason that I said I would only do it with a 5-tool guy is because it's so early. And especially if you're in an OBP, I expect Kwan to be able to continue to be good. The problem is that this hot start, even though it's only been, you know, 17 at bats at this point in time, and he's 9 for 17. It's that you can carry early success for a long time. It can look good in a month because you were started so damn hot.
Well, the
it
one
just takes
thing
a long time for it to catch up.
I'll bring this home with is that I think the categories where Quana is excelling, I think are easier to replace than the ones that he's missing. So I think that's the only thing I want to add to that, is that I think the power numbers are what haunt him. So if you get a guy that, and you're right about the average, I should have stated, like, if you're getting any sort of additional power plus 80-80, you do that deal every day, or even 70-80, even 70-70 probably. That value train is just better for your team because you're getting yourself a different kind of production. Now, if you're in a really deep 30-team league and you need a center fielder, now that's a different conversation, right? Now we have a different element in that trade conversation. And
even like if you've got middle and corner infield as well, right? And you've your left field, right field, center field, which your more advanced leagues will have. It's not just going to be blanket outfield like a lot of 5 outfielder leagues are. Then you're absolutely right, Ty. You need to be very specific with trade partners, with what you're getting back when you're considering trades with those things. So, but anyway, we could go on about that. We'll be back with Steven Kwan. He's going to be popular enough to continue talking about. Let's talk about potential save guys. Some of these guys, already have one on the board. 31 different MLBers prior to tonight's play because games are still going on as we're recording. I didn't want to include, half finished games. There are 31 different players that have one or more saves. 3 players have blown saves. That's Bard with Colorado, Hendricks with Chicago, and Bender with Miami. But if you did the punt on save thing or the save hold league thing, listen up, because here are some names to consider. Brooks Raley with Tampa Bay. He saved the first game and then didn't play for the next 3, I think it was, and then had a hold in his second game. But he came in, he was the second pitcher in, pitched 2 innings, no runs and 2 Ks. So for the year, he's got 2 1/3 innings pitched, a save, a hold, and 3 Ks. Lovely. Welcome to Tampa Bay. That's what they're going to do. Brooks Raley is going to very quickly in save hold leagues start to get gobbled up. But I think the hotter his start, the harder it's going to be to acquire him. I don't know that Tampa Bay, I don't know where they're going to display him everywhere, right? They gave him a save once. He got one guy out and that did it. And then a hold right after. So Diego Castillo with Seattle. We've talked about the Seattle question marks, second rider, Castillo, Seawald, what's going on with all these guys? That's a tough one, but we've already got a couple guys with saves in Seattle. Ashton Goudeau, I think I'm saying that right. Goudeau. Sounds like he's from Quebec. Probably not, but he's in Colorado. He got the save last night after Bard blew the save himself and ended up walking into a win. And he's got a hold prior to that. So it's Colorado. So you're just counting that category. So if you are like me and you're like, you know what, I think Alex Colomé has got more left in the tank, and you drafted him in several places, maybe this Ashton Goudeau is going to be somebody you slowly transition off of Colomé into Goudeau. If you want to stay crazy and stay in Colorado, if you think something is there. Ty, you wanted to touch on the next guy, so I'm going to give that one up to you.
Yeah, Jorge Lopez is a guy that is going to stumble into some saves in that Baltimore or shell of what a Baltimore bullpen really looks like. They traded some anchor pieces right at the end of the spring. And the big reason is Felix Bautista is a guy that broke camp, 20-year-old. This is a big human. This is a guy that, is going to be the closer of the future there. And I actually have a hunch they're moving him early to potentially line him up as a trade asset, because I think he's just going to be there before they're ready to win. And by 20-year-old, I mean he's 26. He was born on June 20th. So that's incorrect. But I think the reality is like he's just not there.
20-year-old born on the 20th. So super close.
So
the next guy is a 6-year-old. Oh wait, sorry, he was born on the 6th.
Absolutely, but this is a large human, 6'5", 190, and I think that 190 is on the light side. But his current K per 9, Robbie, is 17.2 across.
No such thing as an early sample if it's in your favor.
so it's good. The whip is also 1.9, so we're gonna have to bring that down just a little bit. And it's still really, really early here. We're gonna get through it, but this is a guy that's gonna pound the zone with some heavy stuff. And so this is a guy that's probably available in a lot of deep leagues right now. That won't be the case in a week's time.
Okay.
So go get
You-
him.
You know what his owned or rostered percentage is on Fantrax?
4.
0.
Yeah.
I've got him in a league in the dynasty league that we play, in a 30-team dynasty league. He was owned or rostered, whatever, in that one. But otherwise, in other like we've got the gamut here. Like on my own Fantrax account, we've got from I think 14 team up to 30, and there's several 30 team leagues there. Owned in leagues where there are 50 minor leagues. So there's what 1,200, 1,400, 1,500 potential, minor leaguers, and he's not owned or not rostered, whatever, in any of those. He is 100% under the radar. I've started to pick him up in a few spots where you can pick up rookies in season, because I think it's just smart, because if they're already up, and like you just said, Ty, you go and watch some video, watch how he pitches and watch how older dudes pitch, and tell me what's more intimidating. He just needs to learn. He needs to wane it in. We've seen other pitchers who we thought were going to come up and do great things, and they weren't able to do it. But there's nothing wrong with him being the last guy on your roster, as long as he's not the first guy you cut. You got to give him a bit of rope now. You're in season, you're dynasty, keep a redraft. Don't make him the last guy you pick up and the first guy you let go. So one of the last guys that I thought would be picked up by some teams, and one of the first guys to be let go, has now got himself a few saves with the Cubbies already, in David Robertson, 37 years old, came over from Tampa Bay last year, where basically I think he just got healthy again after years of not being healthy. David Robertson is now closing with the Cubbies. Other potential options within the Cubs: Michael Givens, who we've talked about before, was with Baltimore, traded to Colorado. It's did not look good for Givens. I don't think he's really a closer. Rowan Wick, who I think everybody thought the Cubs were gonna have closing, and maybe he will be. Chris Martin is another guy who was in Atlanta last year. He was a free agent. Okay, and then you've got like the potential of anyone beyond there that you personally might think, but those are kind of the 4 dudes, and it makes sense that Robertson's getting some play early, but I don't think it makes sense for David Robertson to be good at all times. It's just fun kind of to look like he got a save opening day, he got a save on the 12th. That's where we're sitting with him right now. I don't know, Ty. I'm not interested. What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, I like him as a vet to get maybe 20 saves, right? So in most format,
he
that's
just kicks
valuable.
around, right? Late in that bullpen, because look at what's in the bullpen. It's all dudes. It's not studs. It's
but if
guys.
you're holding on to 2 or more reliever potential spots, right? Robertson is value, right? He's going to be there. He's cheap. He's free in most leagues. So I don't have a problem with it. I'll always take the closer that has experience. Like, there's nothing that scares me more in a redraft scenario, especially, than a guy that's never done it. Like, I don't want any of those guys. Like, I don't touch them. I don't go anywhere near them. I'll deeper formats. I'll play the lottery ticket game, but not in a shallow format ever. So he's the kind of guy that if I'm looking for a late round flyer, I'll do it. Like Diego Castillo, who we just talked about, I own in the Surf League. I own him in other spots as well, because I know he's going to get save chances, because he's the vet in that bullpen right now, and he has big game experience out in the last inning in Tampa Bay. So I'll always lean on those guys. Next year, we want to just touch on Toronto really quick.
Hold on. Sorry, Ty. I just had a really quick thing, just so everybody knows. On Fantrax, David Robertson is currently rostered in 53% of leagues, so he is out there. And on Yahoo, 71%.
Yeah,
just so we covered those.
Be interesting to see what that change is in the last 6 days.
It has not changed. It has not changed at all on Yahoo. 0% increase. So basically, everybody who drafted David Robertson has stuck with him, and no one in the league where he is available has picked him up, which is crazy when you think about how valuable a closer is in save only leagues. And you can't tell me that 30% of Yahoo leagues are save hold leagues. That's not happening. So there's a lot of people missing the boat early on some potential save.
I'm more shocked that 60% of people thought Robertson was going to be a relevant closer. Like that's the part that I think is crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm looking here. I don't see an increase available on Fantrax
Okay.
just from having a very quick look at it.
Crazy.
Maybe it should say, up and down percentage for Robertson the last week is 0% on Fantrax also.
That's
So,
wild.
but
I find that
anyone,
hard
like
to
you
believe.
just said, just to put the little cherry on what you just said, anyone who's like, oh, an old guy can't close. Well, look what happened in San Diego last year with Mark Melanson. Failed in previous attempts. San Francisco did not go well, and then wherever it was, Melanson went, Atlanta, whatever it was, comes back, ends up in San Diego, and boom, like a league leader in saves. So you can get this. You can get this from David Robertson, just like you can get it from Craig Kimbrell. It
Yep.
can happen. But the opposite is what happens if a dude gets hurt, and that's where I interrupted you with what would happen if something happened to Romano.
Yeah, and Romano is one of the guys that went early off the board on the closer side in Toronto. He's currently, I think he's at 26 or 27 straight closes, and that's a nice streak. It's a record for the Jays.
Four saves, leading MLB after his 4th save tonight.
Yeah, and he looked. I didn't see the finish tonight, obviously, because we're recording, but he looked dynamite in Game 1 of that series, closing the door there. To me, just like he's terrifying as a purist of like pitching. Like he has just the right amount of reckless abandonment to be a closer, but man, is it painful for me to watch because his it's just a little sloppy. It's scary.
A
but
little
stuff
sloppy.
when
You
it's
are being generous.
It's
He
fair.
looks like a bully on the mound. That's what he looks like. He looks like he is out there to like kick your teeth in, and I love it. I love the fact
need
that
him
he
to
looks like
have-
an intimidator.
I need him to go out there with stirrups, though, just because of the shape of his body and how skinny his legs are. I need stirrups there. But
Sounds
anyway,
like you're missing Robbie Ray. That's what it sounds like to me. You're missing some
no.
tight pants.
No,
Okay,
you know
talk
what?
about the replacements. If something happens to Romano, who could come in next?
And the reality is Romano doesn't exactly have a clean history health-wise. So this is why these two guys are relevant. I think Yimi Garcia is the guy that everybody assumes is first man up. He's going to be
the contract. Yep.
He's going to be the setup guy. Like it seems obvious. And likely he would get a portion of the save opportunities. But I actually think Merriweather is the guy. And a lot of people are like, oh, Merriweather, injuries, this, injury, that. And yes, concern, potential for sure. But if you've watched the spring and you watched where he started this season now, you can see the progression of Merriweather about to turn the corner, if he hasn't already just turned the corner, to reach that element we saw to open last season before he got hurt. He was lights out, and he was going to be the closer last year. That was already decided by the brass in Toronto. He got 2 or 3 saves to open the year last year because he was lights out. And I think we're going to see that form over the next 2 or 3 weeks. There might be a little bit more refinement happening, but if he can stay healthy, he's a guy there that I think could be really, really huge, and a lot of people don't know who he is.
Yeah, moving right into another situation that could be interesting over the next month. Cincinnati. We don't know how many opportunities they're going to get, but so far, Centillion has got a save, as well as Art Warren, who was the guy everybody was excited about over the offseason, 29-year-old rookie. I believe he's considered an MLB rookie. But Lucas Sims, who last year, until the injury, was getting the saves, was going to be the guy. But it also seems like he could come back this year and be the guy. But caution to everybody out there, Cincinnati does not care who ends the game. They just want to win it. If they are in a close game, they will put the best pitcher out there that gives them that opportunity. Very Tampa Bay-like. However, if you're looking to like roster 2 of these 3 guys, that's a mistake. I think you just need to pick one and roll with it. And if you miss the boat on Warren and Centillion, maybe Sims is the option for you. And if you miss on Sims, it doesn't mean he's not going to be pitching in save hold leagues. But again, if you're going for closes specific, I would probably just steer away from Cincinnati altogether.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
There we go. Now we got to take a little bit of a look here towards the minors at some other guys who are closing, just for anybody out there interested, closing in the minors. So we've got Josh James, who is the closer for the AAA Houston team. He's 29. Does everybody remember Josh James when he was going to be great and prospect, and then injuries and all these terrible things happened? Well, now he might end up just sneaking back up to Houston as the season progresses. and potential save hold guy here. Ryan Castellinian, nailed it. 26-year-old pitcher with Oakland. He's currently closing at AAA. The reason that I put him on here as we could always see a guy in Oakland getting traded, and you might just move a guy who's currently closing for you, like Trevino, in the 9th, and then bring a guy like Castellani up for the 7th, 8th, or 9th. So he could immediately move into a role where he's a save hold guy, and that's why he's on this list. And Ty, you put an additional note here, but Kyle Johnston with Toronto, with Buffalo right now. I accidentally put AA. He's closing for the Bisons this year. He's a 25-year-old. But as you pointed out here, Graham Sparker, who was the AFL pitcher of the fall, it would be ahead of him on the overall depth chart. I don't know why Sparker isn't closing, but just the fact that Johnston is, I wanted to make note.
Is it Sparker or Spraker? I think it's Spraker.
Spraker, you're right. Sorry, Spraker.
Yeah.
I like to make some players' names better than they are.
I mean, I like Castellani, as you were saying it.
Sound it out. Like my wife says to my 5-year-old, just sound it out. Castellani. But anyway, those are just some like down the road guys. You know, if you're allowed to pick up minor leaguers and throw them, whatever, you got a deep bench or something like that. Those are potential options. We got some more ugly names to come up to you too. But the next name is ugly right now, Ty. That is Mr. Patrick Corbin with Washington, 32-year-old lefty, 2 starts, a grand total of 6.2 innings, a 10.8 ERA, 7 Ks. And the next opponents, he's going to Pittsburgh, so there's some relief. Then San Francisco is going to come and visit. Then Miami's going to come and visit. But then he's got to go to Colorado. He lines up with the Mets, and then he is going to be back in Miami pitching again. I don't know how I feel about Patrick Corbin until we know what Miami is. But I mean, after that Colorado start, if you are desperate, that might be the time to go and get you some Patrick Corbin. What are your thoughts on Patrick Corbin?
They don't.
Yeah, there are people that are all over him. There are some fantasy baseball guys that are like, Corbin's coming back. And I mean, after the Pittsburgh start, if he's okay in that, I think people are going to say it's going to be okay. But look at the gauntlet that San Francisco, at Colorado, and the Mets. I think the Mets are going to be tough. So Miami's kind of the throw in there. I think Miami's good, but he's going to play them twice or start against them twice in his next 6. But oh man, after 8 starts, Patrick Corbin could look ugly.
I just don't think in today's game he has the strikeout ratios to justify the risk. I think it's that simple. Like, I think there's other guys that give you upside in other ways with the same risk.
Like the next guy?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, no, I'm not doing it, but you can. This is more a you guy.
I'm not. Kyle Gibson is not a me guy. No way, no how.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, so we'll leave Corbin because we can always talk about him some other day. But Kyle Gibson also worth a mention here. He had a great first start, 7 innings pitched. One of the few quality starts out there. The first time through the rotation, got the win, 10 Ks. But he also has a rough go. A lot of repeat teams on these starters. He's going to Miami next, then going to Colorado. Then Colorado is coming to see him in Philly. Then he's going to the Mets and either having the Mets at home to him or he'll be on the road in Seattle. I would say those starts are both going to level off. I would not want to go to Seattle with that offense, but either way, Kyle Gibson has had a great start. I don't know what I think of him beyond that. Like, it was a good start for the 34-year-old. That's all, right? It was one good start of the 24% of guys part of the 76 that was not. The end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I don't need to spend time on him because I'm not going to be there. But I mean, if you have Kyle Gibson, like, he better have been drafted late. Or I was going to say, what are you doing? An alternative.
I would trade him if you have him and you don't think you're in contention to do damage this year.
Correct. Yeah. Sell now. That's a sell now. I agree. Next up is Seiya Suzuki, and I just need to put this out into the universe because every time I see it, I just think of Outkast as Seiya. I'm just waiting for that to be a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think what you're saying is fine, but I think we can all collectively do better. Hot start, 3 home runs for Suzuki, 400 average after play tonight. What was the other thing he had done well? 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. I don't know if he walked today. He did. So tack on an extra walk to Suzuki's 5 walks to 5 Ks and 8 RBIs. You know what? This is my biggest thing here, Ty. I'm just happy that he didn't come in and suck, right? Because Ha-Seong Kim came in and sucked, and Ohtani came in, and Ohtani was fine. I mean, we're talking years ago now, but we've had issues with the players coming over who were supposed to be good and then weren't. So it's nice that Suzuki did. Now for the bad news. He faced Thompson tonight, got a hit off him. That was fine. He's going to Colorado this weekend, which is good. So goodness with Suzuki. After that, he's going to Tampa. Then he's going to Pittsburgh, which, you know, maybe there's some reprieve there, but then he's got to take on Atlanta, which does have a decent staff overall. Then he's got to go to Milwaukee, decent staff overall. Then he's got to go to Chicago White Sox, decent staff overall. I think we're about to see a peak after this weekend of Suzuki, and then we're going to start to see him trend downward. I'm interested to see where he's sitting stat and average wise at the end of the White Sox series. So
Yeah.
if you got Suzuki, you got to play him. But
Well, and I've talked about this enough that people should know where I'm going to go right now. So far in his small sample, almost 70% fastballs, right? So major league hitters or professional hitters are going to have some success against that ratio. That's just a fact. He's struck out 5 of his 21 plate appearances for roughly 30%. But on the upside, he's 50-50 barrel rate with a pretty decent exit velo and the bombs to go with it. So I think a really nice comparable here is my boy, Randall Grichuk. I think is a really interesting profile for Suzuki. I think the power could exceed Grichuk, but I think he's going to be streaky like Grichuk. I think it's a really good comparable if you're a fantasy owner. So third, fourth outfielder type, I think you're going to be happy with that ownership. The problem is most people bought him like a first outfielder, right? On the back end of first outfielders. That's really where Suzuki went in a lot of formats. So I think that the cost is going to make you reluctant. And I think that's the actual issue with Suzuki. Not that he's a bad player or he just was bought too high.
He was also a consensus top 5 pick in any prospect or first year player draft this offseason. So you're getting the value now, but don't think, as Ty is saying, don't think this is just going to keep rolling right here. So next guy up, Ty, he's playing right now. He's in as a pinch hitter tonight, DHing now that the White Sox.
The left-handed pitcher's out of the game. Sorry.
Yeah. Now that, it was Keuchel. He's out. But I would have let Winker go in against Keuchel tonight. But anyway, Jesse Winker, Seattle outfielder, 7 walks on the year, Ty, 1 strikeout. Oh my God, that's amazing. Crap average so far, but it is super early, and he is about to go face the Houston interesting pitching, and then the Texas interesting pitching, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Who's taking John Gray's spot, which I guess will be the next guy up for Texas, and then he's probably going to hit 3-4 bombs off of my favorite. Well, he's your favorite target. He was like my favorite prospect for a while. Oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting his name, with the former Philly who was traded for Hans Kraus.
Spencer Howard.
Thank you. I'm like, I was just going with Torkelson.
Well, and I do love the exchange that I had with myself to you during his start against Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing. I just saw all the messages at once.
I was just like the end of the top of the inning, and then I'm like, because I hadn't clued in that Spencer Howard was starting, and then I just immediately messaged you, and I was like, listen, he's going to give up bombs. It's going to happen. And like no more than 30 seconds later, bomb. And then like right after that, bomb. And then a little bit of a gap, bomb. And it was just, it's the thing that Toronto does well. If you're going to pitch fastballs up in the zone, you're going to get lit. And that's been my concern with Howard all along, is that he tries to throw the fastball up and he just doesn't have the pitch to do it.
Right. He's trying to beat everybody with it here.
And you can't do that. It's not good enough. It doesn't have enough movement, and he's not, he doesn't deceive anybody with that fastball up. So he's going to have a bad time as long as he continues to do that.
Okay, well, we got to put a pin in that. because we're talking Jesse Winker. So he's gonna go to Houston, and I think there's gonna be some good righties he can face. He's gonna go to Texas. I think there's gonna be some opportunity there. He's gonna go to KC, and that is honestly, that's a pretty good trio that of teams you get to go up against if you're Jesse Winker. And then you're gonna go to Tampa, and then Miami to round out the end of April. So there's lots of opportunity for Jesse Winker to really turn it around. Slow start. I got to say, it's just not a big deal here. The opposite side of that is the hot start. And Ty, you mentioned him earlier, Owen Miller. He's currently playing first base, kind of got the second base pedigree as well. The righty bat for Cleveland Guardians. So far, he's got 5 doubles with that blistering start. And honestly, thank the terrible Kansas City pitching staff for that. It was just, oh my God, it was so depressing. I was trying hard to fight for my boy, Chris Bubik, but they didn't make it easy. And then Brady Singer, who's not starting right now. Oh my God, Brady Singer's not even starting. He came in and he struggled. It's one bad thing after another, but Owen Miller is a bright light in this. And if you are the Bobby Bradley owner and you've got, you roster Bobby Bradley, I keep saying owner, and I know we're not supposed to do that. So anyway, if you've got Bobby Bradley and an open roster spot, Owen Miller might be somebody to try to reach out for right now, because it's a good thing to play that game early in the season. You can make a call on one guy or the other as the season goes on. But that's just a name to note for everybody. And if you're desperate for first base, as I am in one league, you thought that Dalton Kelly or Eric Thames or Billy McKinney were going to be the guy in Oakland and they were going to be useful, and they're not, because 2 of them aren't even in the show right now, and the one that is sucks. Owen Miller might be an option for you on your waiver wire too. So
yep.
Ty, you got the next couple, or you got the next one, and then I just squeezed in a guy that I thought I'd mention. But
yeah, we're talking catchers because that's what we love to do here. Kyle Higashioka in New York, who is the inherent starter until Ben the Muscle Man Roosevelt, or whatever his name is, comes back from the injury that he picked up in the flight from Minnesota to New York.
What happened on that plane?
I don't know. There must have been snakes on it. But although I don't know if we're allowed to say that now after things got heated in the baseball games lately. At the end of the day here, Higashioka is playing bingo, 0.56 batting average. This is not good.
I like that. And he had a hell of a spring, like just
cool.
Dominated the spring.
Cool, but again, you have to look at what people were doing against him. Like Higashioka steps up in the spring and guys are working on fastball command, right?
And he tags.
That's just the reality of it. And I think this is a guy that was overmatched last season, and every now and then he shows these blips of power, but he's not a major league hitter. Like I'm okay with a defensive catcher, nothing wrong with it. There's a place for it in baseball, but if you're looking to own him because he's the starting catcher in New York, don't. He's not going to give you the value that you want. And I mean, cool, he could be a spot guy. He's definitely a waiver wire backup for those of you in some of the shallow leagues where he's going to be available. But, he definitely is not a guy you want to lean on if you're expecting production from your catcher position. Now, Rob, you and I have talked about points formats, and guys that don't strike out sometimes can be really valuable at the catcher position, and that he might fit that mold. But I think that's the extent of where I would even think about Higashioka.
Yeah, it's the early and often, right? Is a guy helping you early in your season, and is he helping you often? And in points league, early and often is a huge factor. But to your point, Ty, with Higashioka, 7 points is typically what you can get out of a home run in a points league, and that can be because maybe a home run's worth 3, and if an RBI is worth 1 and a run is worth 1, so at minimum, I guess I should say 5. But you have formats that'll do 1.5 because they like to try to level off the pitching power and they up the player stats. So depending on your format, hurt you is only valuable in a bigger league where you need a starter. So that's where we are with him right now. Somebody else.
Before you jump to it, I'm just going to put a real pin in the next guy that you skip me down because he's on my list here. Also, and just so I can connect the dots, playing bingo as well, Isaiah Kiner Falafa, 059. 059, ladies and gentlemen. And he is also laying an egg in New York. New York's a tough place to play. Playing shortstop in New York is even harder. and he's feeling that pressure. Ask Gleyber Torres what that's like. It's not a fun thing to be the guy that they expect to replace what was once Jeter, and knowing that the guys that are behind him in the minors are coming. I didn't like this trade for New York at the beginning, as much as I love that it's blowing up in their face because I'm a Jays fan. I didn't like this trade for them. I don't like Donaldson as part of this trade either for them. In the reality of a fan side, I like it, but I just don't expect a lot out of kind of Falafa. I mean, to me, deep format's a great guy to own because he's got multiple position eligibility. That's where his value lies.
That's where it starts and ends, though, right? You can just put him in. Like,
yep.
Yeah, instead of taking a 0, you take whatever the hell he gives you. It's
That's
just
right.
a matter of what is he going to give you. And I wanted to very quickly add a guy in here, Ty. I loved your bingo. I apologize for trying to break it up. I didn't realize that. You should have said bingo, and then I would have just let it go because I didn't know what you were talking about. But I've got Connor Joe. I just wanted to very quickly mention because I looked on Fangraphs just to see who are the top players that have been searched. And a couple of the guys that we're talking about have been searched the most in Owen Miller and Stephen Kwan. So I was like, oh, that's funny. And then Connor Joe's name popped up. I'm like, hey, I know him. I've got him in all my dynasty leagues. Why is he popping up here? Oh, that's right. Because in 24 at-bats, he's got 2 dingers, 7 runs, 3 RBIs, and a stolen base to boot. And his K percentage is the same as his walk percentage, Ty, which I love. And that is 16.7. So there you go. Connor Joe rosterers out there. You're welcome. Another one, Dylan Moore, Mr. 500, I like to call him because that's his average. I can't explain it, Ty, but his first start of the season is coming tonight. So everybody be patient. Dylan Moore should not have been in your starting lineup after what happened last year. I know I was super excited because my friend Jerry DePoto said he thought Dylan Moore was like a Josh Donaldson type intense leader ready for the breakout. And then it didn't happen last year. It was terrible, but he was still stealing bases for you. Well, the White Sox are about to extinguish the Mariners' hopes of a win tonight. Hendricks is on the mound, and assuming he doesn't blow it, Dylan Moore will be, I think, 0 for 2 with a walk is what he's going to finish tonight with. So Dylan Moore is playing. Let's just hope that can continue for him, and we'll see what's up. And I just very quickly wanted to mention those guys, Ty. I know your next guy up is kind of your guy. You own his jersey. I'm doing the Chris Farley air quotes. I don't know what I'm talking about. Tell me a little bit about Machado.
Yeah, I mean, Manny Machado is in San Diego, who's obviously getting out of the gate a little slow here without Tatis. But Machado's just a traditional slow starter. So, people that own him in dynasty formats should know that, but it's really easy to forget when he enters into the 200, 230 batting average category, sub 700 OPS. And he likes to live there this time of year. So he's a guy that shows up in the middle of the summer in a very big way. And I've mentioned this enough times on here. He is a guy that is always hitting balls hard, just right at people. But just the reason I wanted to mention him is just more or less a chance to buy, right? And I'll do that every time at this time of year. I'll mention a couple of these guys that you should be targeting because a lot of people are happy to forget that they're productive hitters. And it's really hard when you get all excited about the season to start and boom, he disappears a little bit. But really owning him June, July can get you winning some regular season money in your league. So that's why I just want to hit on that really quickly. On the other side of that, Robbie, a guy that went to Boston, big offseason signing, Trevor Story. I think he's going the other way. I think we were right to fade on Trevor Story. And I think that trend is going to continue a little bit. My big thing with Trevor Story is it looks like the power stroke's just gone, right? The 30 home run pop. And we know the stolen bases are going to fade. That's just a reality. But it looks like the pop's fading too. So it doesn't mean he can't reinvent himself a little bit and become a little bit more of a contact bat. That's possible. But I think the top end fantasy value for him is gone. That's my thoughts there.
Okay, I'm going to highlight a few of these dudes so that we can revisit in a couple weeks. Because right now, Story sample's very small, 1 and 8. But tonight he was 2 for 5, so he's now 3 for 13 because I'm really good at math.
But
I could
sub
do that.
600 OPS though, like that's That's kind of the point I'm trying to make, right? Like he's
Yeah,
not.
no dingers. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing of power to note, and the run total for him is 0.00. I'm with you. I'm not at all saying I think Trevor Story is going to have this amazing year in Boston, and we've got a new. I don't know what we're calling it. It's on a segment. I just told you I think it'd be really great if we could create some type of audio clip for it. But when we get to it, there are some names that hurt my feelings because it's just more Boston depth, and I hate that.
Yep.
I flipping hate it. Anyway, you got the next guy up too, Ty. So why don't you
Yeah.
go?
I mean,
Okay.
similar to the Machado conversation, Ketel Marte's off to a slow start. This is a guy that has nobody around him. We've talked about that in weeks and months and years past. But
Dual
the
position
reality-
eligibility for everybody out there: second base and center field / outfield.
Yep, and he's
Right.
hitting 143 right now, sub 500 OPS. Right, not what you're chasing in any format. So this is the kind of guy, especially at the second base eligibility, Robbie. Like, there's not a ton of depth at that position. So if you can go out and find yourself some Ketel Marte for a stock outfielder, you do that. Like he's gonna give you that value just based on the fact that he plays second base. The reality is that Arizona team has some good guys coming. Right, we're going to see Alek Thomas this year at some point, which will give that a little bit of depth. We'll probably see the little guy that everybody likes, Corbin, whatever his
Corbin
name
Carroll.
is, that one. I think he's going to be a disappointment, but I do think he at least lengthens that lineup a little bit. The reality is, like, buy Marte. That's all I'm trying to say. Go get him now. Don't wait. Offer something that's a little bit more than average, and I think people will at least continue a conversation as long as they're deep at the position. If they get nothing, then don't even bother. But
I would say the shiny tool prospect that you've got on your roster that you don't think is going to meet expectations, like you just said about a starting point, that might be the right way to start it. So depending on who exactly we're talking about, whoever you have on your own roster that you're like, you know what, people like him. I don't either need him because I've got depth, or I don't think he's going to do what everybody says he's going to do. Float that one out there.
you know
Don't
who would be
insult, right? Don't insult. Come with real value.
So I'm going to throw one at you, Robbie. Do you take Jose Siri and a pitching prospect, low level
You
lottery
son of a
ticket
bitch.
type?
I did.
Forget all
Jose
about that.
Siri.
Yeah, I thought you might. That's why I asked.
I intentionally left him off because I want to give him more time, more at bats. Jose Siri is, I've talked about him enough. And if you're new, Jose Siri, I think, is a legitimate MLB player. So
Apparently, I was listening to Sunday Night Baseball, maybe, or maybe it was.
were
one of
they
the
quoting
Apple-
me?
No, it was the Apple. It was Apple TV's thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the crazy-eyed guy that used to play for Houston and San Francisco? Oh, I cannot think of it right now.
I don't
Right
know.
fielder.
Crazy.
Yeah, High Sox guy.
Hunter Pence.
Yes, thank you. So he's on the broadcast, and
Oh, wow.
I actually really like it. He's actually
Yeah,
really good. And they had this other girl that was, I can't remember her name either, but she was phenomenal. It was like Katie Nolan or something like that, I want to say. I don't know if that's right or if I'm even close, but she was hilarious. I enjoyed her commentary a little bit. Nothing really to do with baseball, but she added fun to the debate. But reality is here, one of the things that Pence was mentioning along the way, because Siri had a pit stop in San Francisco, I believe. He used to do this weird thing in the outfield where he would lay on the ground with his legs out to the side. So basically he would go onto his knees and then fall backwards, if that makes sense. And then he would pop out of that and throw an absolute seed. And that Pence was saying, I just don't know how he did it, but it was that's a cool thing. And so just an athlete, right, is what it comes down to. But a guy that obviously has had a lot of success early here. So a guy that has not had a lot of success early here, Cody Bellinger. And I want to just throw him in here because I think it's time to market. It's time to remove him from the days of MVP expectations. And I think he's getting dangerously close to removing his name from the days of starting outfielder. I think that conversation has to start happening, because until he corrects that up and in gap that he has, there's just no success here. And cool, you can run into one every now and then, but that's not going to help a major league team.
Yeah, he hit his first home run tonight, 2-for-4 performance. But also he's got 7 Ks in 18 at bats.
Yeah.
So he's hurting a lot of people out there. The one thing that's interesting that he's done, and I noted this earlier today, was that he's got 2 stolen bases, which in only those 14, this was before play tonight, in only those 14 at bats. Last year he only stole 3 bases. So it's almost like the Dylan Moore syndrome of, I'm not hitting right now, but when I do get on base, I'm going to make sure I'm in scoring position. So I'm going to get to second if I'm at first, or I'm going to, go to third or whatever it is. So that could be, and it's not at all a saving grace. It could be a new element that he introduces, but it's certainly not going to make up for batting like in the mid 150s. Like, we've got a serious issue on our hand here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But talk about positive things, Ty. Let's switch it up. Let's finish the MLB pool with a positive here. It's not at all a victory lap. It's too early, but say your thing here.
Christian Javier is a guy that I've been talking about for what seems like forever. And he's off to a good start. Pitched 3 innings today. Didn't allow a hit. 5 strikeouts. So this is a guy that I've said is going to be moved into this rotation. I just think it's a matter of time. The longer Lance McCormick is out, the more likely this is a thing.
McCullers, Lance McCullers.
Is that not what I said?
You said McCormick. Lance
Okay.
McCormick. I don't know who he is, but he sounds like he drives in
I think
NASCAR.
it's a mix between Lance and Chaz, I think is where I ended up there.
But either way, Javier, been excellent. When everybody wakes up tomorrow and there's new rankings out, he's going to appear way the heck up charts, 38% owned or rostered, on Yahoo. I'm going to check Fantrax while you continue.
Yeah.
Your drool
Well, and the
session.
reality is I told you to buy him 12 months ago, right? Like this is a guy that I've been telling you to buy for a while. And he's going to be a guy. I'm telling you, it's a guy to own.
I can vouch that Ty has made a trade in the last 6 weeks acquiring Christian Javier. I don't recall what you gave up, but I just remember looking and kind of doing like a silly smirk, like, yeah, okay, yeah, you will pick him up.
Yeah, I'm gonna own. I own him everywhere I can. If he's available and this person wants to trade him, I will take him. And that's just the way that I do things. So
the way it be. That is the way it be.
So, Robbie, as you're looking that up, I'm just going to tease that we're going to dive into a couple of minor leaguers that are having early success here. But I like this list. There's some guys here that I've been excited about, and a couple like post-hype kind of guys, which I get jazzed up about.
Definitely. You know what? Christian Javier does not appear on Fantrax, so I don't know why that is happened.
It's just because he's on all of my rosters? Is that why?
Well, that's what you know what? I'm actually checking a roster right now where you in the Dynasty League where you also have Cooper Hummel, just to see if you have Javier in this league, but you don't. So I'm gonna have to check our big money. Yeah, I was gonna say, as you've like recently sent another trade offer, like you will send him to me. So I'm just gonna check in our big money auction league here to see if you've got him on your division leading Cleveland Guardians squad here. 4-0, good for you. That's exciting. I think last year I started in that league 7-0, and I was like, oh man, that start's gonna float me for longer than my team deserves it. But what ended up happening, yes, you do have them here.
Of course.
What ended up happening was I still won 90 games with that team. So it wasn't just the start, but basically after that start, I was a 500 team. So
can you just really quickly, Robbie, while you're on that team, just read my bullpen to people.
Sure.
And just talk about how long I've owned those guys.
Okay.
This is a good dynasty lesson. Like I've owned these guys for now multiple years. These are not
Christian Javier is rostered on Fantrax in 78% of the leagues. He's only starting right now in 59. The starting thing is something that you want to take note of in a dynasty setting like Fantrax, because that's the people who actually are paying attention. And if that owner or start goes below 50 and you think the player's doing well, that's when you try to find out who's got him. So Ty's bullpen here, Garrett Whitlock, Cody Whitley of St. Louis, AJ Puck, we all make mistakes, Julian Merriweather, and Brusdar Graterol make up his bullpen here. Other potential arms that he could put in, I just want to say it right, Wanderson Charles with Oakland, who is up and is pitching this year. And I thought I saw Robert What is it? Zellman? He's
Yeah,
in the
Zellman.
minors, but anyway.
He's in the minors.
Yeah, but just he's another potential option. Now you do have Roberto Osuna because everybody poops. And he didn't end up getting himself a contract.
Yeah, but
yet,
I took him from you as part of my stealing of Frankie Montas.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say there's a good looking rotation here too. Montas, Rasmussen, Zach Wheeler, Christian Javier. So Ty is in a very solid position with his team on that one. But to his point about the bullpen, you got to know your league settings. This is a save hold league. So if you did not be like, oh, he didn't say any closers. Well, he doesn't have to have closers. He has to have guys that are out of the bullpen and effective. Because when you get into 30-team leagues, if it's only closers, that's kind of a crappy way to go about having a 5-man bullpen, right? Yeah. You're putting yourself in a rough spot. And plus, we have 3 and 4 day scoring periods for this particular league. We don't do the 7 days. We treat it like an MLB series where you just play a team head to head for that period of time and then on to the next one.
And outside of AJ Puck, like I spent nothing on this bullpen, right? AJ Puck, I bought knowing I was waiting for him to come out of the shell, which I thought was going to be the middle of last year. It looks like it's going to be the middle of this year. But $1 on Merriweather, $1 on Whitley, $1 on Whitlock, and $1.50 on Gratterall. I'll take that all day. And that's cheap bullpen. That's the league minimum. So that's what we're looking for in these sort of things. So love it. And this is just, I wanted to touch on it really quickly because I think that this part of the dynasty game we don't talk about as much is like the bullpen and long-term buys.
Yeah, and depending on your actual bullpen league, you could have 5 guys, like several of the 30-team leagues I'm in. We have 5 bullpen guys. Like I've got in that same league, I've got Jordan Romano, who was a total crapshoot to acquire. But now, look where I am. Jake McGee, who I thought last year was of use to me. Pierce Johnson with San Diego, who I just thought he was good to have. It was just, I wasn't looking at the high upside. And then just for fun, Ty, I picked up Drew Hutchinson, baby, because I like me some Drew Hutchinson. He pitched 2 innings. I was sold after I saw 2 innings. He's since pitched 2 more. And Drew Hutchinson with Detroit is just going to be a dude. I've got him in there. I also have Luis Severino because I like to hurt myself, and he's expensive in my bullpen, but that's okay. I'm totally fine with what I've done with that. To each his own. Anyway, that wraps up the MLBers. Let's talk about possible next guys up or players to return in the MLB call-up list. Possible audio coming in the future because I think we should be doing this every single episode in season. You've heard this name before, the first one on my list, and he's the first one, Ty, because he was leading AAA, his division anyway, whatever league it is he's in. Ryan Fitzgerald, unfortunately, Boston Red Sox shortstop, third baseman. The 27-year-old had an amazing spring. Well, he's carried it over in 14 at-bats, only 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, but 7 RBIs and 4 dingers. Good for you, Ryan Fitzgerald. Keep on rolling. His average is through the roof, but it's so early. We're just going to ignore that, minor leaguers. Grayson Janista, as if Atlanta didn't have enough pop going on in that outfield. They've got a 25-year-old who was a second-round pick in 18, who's got 4 home runs. However, 8 Ks with those 4 home runs in 17 at-bats. So note the home runs, note the strikeouts, and put a watch on it. MLB veteran, but currently in AAA, Matt Davidson, leading all of minor league baseball, I believe, right now with 5 dingers, a 400 average. Matt Davidson is with Arizona's AAA affiliate. He's 31-year-old. Certainly somebody you don't need to really worry about, but the possibility of him being able to have one of those like how Ty, they do that like mid-May cutoff date where they get called up or put on the 40, whatever it is, that might be something he's got. If not, I don't know. But Matt Davidson showing some power early. Bubba Thompson still waiting for that first cup of coffee with Texas. But the outfielder, Ty, batting 400, 5 stolen bases. That's notable. 2 stolen bases, not notable. 5 stolen bases, notable. Bubba Thompson is happy, healthy, and running around. Ryan Noda, 26-year-old outfielder with the Dodgers. We were just talking about Bellinger. Well, this dude here, 7 walks in 26 plate appearances, 3 home runs, and a 400-plus average. Let's put a nota on Noda.
Well, I hated when he left the Jays organization. He had some really good minor league success at the lower levels. Obviously, the depth wasn't moving fast enough. He wasn't going to get past Vladdy, so it was a bit of a redundancy.
I think
but
he was better.
I mean, to be fair, Vladdy doesn't have 7 walks yet this season, so maybe.
Well, there you
Uh,
go. Is he
but-
even batting 400? No, but I'm just kidding. But anyway, yeah, I get you. You never like to see somebody that you think has MLB talent leave. But they slip away, right? And when they end up with the Dodgers, and then you see what's going on here. I mean, now we just hope for the best for the player. So if Ryan Noda is out there in your league and you got a spot, maybe that's a guy. I talked about James Outman last episode as a Dodger guy. When you see multiple players for depth, it, can make it rough. But here's a fun one, Ty. A Colorado. Hey, everybody's excited. Catcher. Brian Severin. He's a 26-year-old. And you know what he's done so far this year? 7 walks in 15 plate appearances. If you don't think that's cool, let me just tell you what happens with catchers. They don't get 7 walks in a month. And he's got 7 in 15 plate appearances. It's great. He obviously needs to be better at contact. And I think pitchers are missing the zone because he has, I think, 2 hits at this point in time, something like that. But anyway, I just wanted to note a catcher, and that was the funniest way I could do it. So I've got a great name, Ty. This whole thing is good. Are you ready?
Yep.
Trey Cabbage. Holy
Yep.
crap. An
Love it.
outfielder, 24-year-old, playing at AA in the Angels organization, a 429 average. Yeah. 4 stolen bases. All right. And he plays for the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Holy crap. Trey Cabbage, Rocket City Trash Pandas. I want that jersey.
Where is the Rocket City? Is that like Birmingham?
Well, I don't know. I was like, it could be, to me, I mean, it's AA, so I don't think it's in Florida, but I was like, it could be something to do with like shuttle. So, there's got to be a Rocket City, Houston Rocket. Nah, I don't know. I have no idea. Are you looking that up?
I am, because I need
Okay.
to know.
I'll give the next one. This was the other one that hurt me because this is another Boston minor leaguer, David Hamilton, shortstop, second base prospect. I know Boston stacked in the infield, but when they're a prospect and they're doing good things, we're just going to talk about them all year long. It's going to happen. And what happens is these might be the guys that get traded for I don't know, a relief pitcher or something as the year goes on. So note the name David Hamilton, 24-year-old, 7 stolen bases. So that must lead minor league baseball. That's why he's on here. 9 RBIs, 2 home runs, a 5 average in AA, and only 14 at bats at this point in time. Look at that production. 7 stolen bases, 9 RBIs. Holy crap. David Hamilton,
So
you are doing well. So
I
where
was
are those Trash
close.
City Pandas from?
They're in Madison, Alabama. And when I said Birmingham, what I actually meant was Huntsville.
So was that like where they build rockets?
I forget
What's
what's
the deal?
actually there. The U.S. Space and Rocket Center
Okay. Well, there we go.
is there. So
It's crazy that a
um,
minor league team can officially be called Rocket City.
why not?
I know. I love it. Like the Trash Pandas. I love
Yeah.
that. It's just, it's
Yes.
nice to see fun things.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you, minor league
NASA
baseball.
Space Flight Center is in there, right in Madison, so just outside of Huntsville.
Okay.
So if you're going to like space camp, you're going to Huntsville,
That's
Alabama.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. If you go to Space Camp. So Ty, here it is. This is the minor league rotation of the week. We'll figure out, again, early stages, figure out the best way to do it. That was like the lineup of the minor league
I like
lineup of the
this.
week. This is going to be the starting rotation. Nick Algier. Can you pronounce that correctly?
No,
Algieri?
because I think you got closer than I'm going to get.
Okay, thank you. Toronto's opening day starter, who we did mention on a previous pod, 26-year-old lefty. He now has 2 starts, 13 Ks, a decimal 8.2 ERA, and a decimal 4.5 whip. Let's just watch that. Let's watch that. Matty Crook with the Yankees organization. He's at AAA right now, a 27-year-old. He's moved around a bit. I think he was drafted in 16 out of college by the Giants. I think that's right. 2 starts, 14 Ks, 0 ERA, and a decimal 8.3 whip. Finally, a prospect of note, Tuki Toussaint, the 25-year-old right-hander at AAA with Atlanta. 2 starts, 8.2 innings pitched, 16 Ks. Holy crap. 7 walks, though. So pull your pants back up.
We're going to see Crook this year.
Oh, I totally agree. I
Yeah.
think there's so little invested in him that he's going to come up and get some run with the Yankees, because if he's not on the 40-man, he could be one of those guys you put on for an injury. And if he doesn't make it work, you just cut him loose or make that DFA move.
He was a first round pick by the Marlins back in 13.
Oh, was
Fun
the
fact.
did he sign with the Marlins then? I
No,
thought he came
he
into
ended up
football-
being
okay.
No, that was a high school pick. He went fourth round in 16 to the Giants.
Okay.
So you were correct on that. But he's like 2021. He had what do we got? 106 innings, 2.89 ERA with 11.2 K per nine, and 13 K per nine so far this year in the 2 starts, as you mentioned, the 0 ERA. So I think the Yankees rotation just is battered and bruised. It's not that good to begin with. So I think we're going to see Crook. I think there's a reality there.
Yeah, I'm renaming this the MILB starting 5. Yeah,
We'll
that's what I'm gonna call it.
we'll work on that name. That
Yeah,
needs
we'll
a
work
little bit of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no Rocket City Trash Pandas. Let's just say.
No, oh my God, no. No, it is not. Kyle Muller with Atlanta. We talked about him before. Left-handed pitcher, 24-year-old, in 2 starts this year, 13 Ks, a 2.79 ERA, and a 1.03 WHIP. Worth note that we think he's going to be hit. Basically, it's between him and Tukey, who would be the first guy up. So it's good to have both of them on here doing well. However, we see 7 walks from Tukey is like that's not going to play at MLB. That's going to be 12 walks. Also, he'll never get to 8.2 innings if he's, given up a walk per inning. The next guy up here is Ryan Nelson, AAA. Oh, crap. I didn't write down if he was a righty or a lefty with Arizona. 24-year-old in 2 starts. It's only been 8 innings. So I think it was 4-4. I think that's what they did with them. 13 Ks, only 1 walk given up, a 2.25 ERA, and a 1.13 WHIP. So player to note there. I wanted to stop at 5 because it can get out of hand if we're so early, right? A lot of guys only have 1 start. So by the time we record next, we should be seeing 3 and in some cases 4 starts. So we're going to get to build on this, but I love this idea of trying to give everybody out there. It doesn't matter if they're a highly touted prospect or if they're Matt Crook. They will be listed on here if we think they can help your dynasty team, whether that be down the stretch, 5 starts in June or whatever, 3 starts in June, whatever they can do, or trade bait. You get them on your team. It's all about collecting assets so that you can move on. I mean, we've been trying to help everybody for 200 episodes now. So
yeah, let's do it. Let's keep it going, Robbie. It's been that week of panic. It's been that week of waiver wiring, and it's been that week of trying to make your team better. Hopefully you picked up on a couple things here today to make your team better. If you did, don't forget to hit us up at Dingers Pod. Let us know. And if you've got some of those really ripe Kershaw trades we talked about off the top, send them over. Let us see them. Let us give you a pat on the back if you stole them from somebody.
Yeah, if you steal Barrios, if you steal, who was the other guy we were talking about? You said
Kershaw.
Yeah. So yeah, those 2. And sorry, it is episode 200, and Roto Ronnie has been complaining like anybody in your league complains. So you got to mention Roto Ronnie, but you didn't get invited on the episode because I thought it would be better if Ty and I just did good old fashioned fantasy baseball.
Yeah. No, and I mean, we love Ronnie, but we also love to not have him on the show. So
love it.
It's the best. It's part of the bit. So we love you guys. Not just Ronnie. We love all you guys. We appreciate it. It's been 200. Looking to the future for many more. But until next time, it's been Rob and Tyler here on Dingers.